I thought Sark's opening script and game plan against Oklahoma State once again showed that he has elevated right, himself as a coach. Now, this was the sixth three down defense that he's played so far. He had to coach up against this year. So for everybody who's like, man, Rodney, why do you keep talking about this damn three down defense? I mean, it's some teams run it, but why do you figure Sark's got to figure out an antidote to it? Because he's going to see it so much.
Yeah,
it's half the damn schedule now, guys. It was half the schedule. If he didn't figure out an antidote to it or figure out a way to solve the three down, there's no way they were going to win the conference. And that's why schematically it was one of my big focal points. And I do think he's figured out his formula and his antidote. And all the culmination of it, really the peak of it, man, might have been against Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma State, they just man for man, they just don't have the bodies, they don't have athletes. But even Sark said they're one of the best, if not the best linebacking core that they faced this year. And they have, at least Mike Gundy, they've been running the three high as long as anybody in the Big 12. They started running in 2016, even before Iowa State started running it. But this is why Sark, this is his formula. And now it worked for everybody, but there are those around the country that are going to study the way that Sark decided to expose the three high and then use some of his principles, right, when they have to face it. And like I said, it's everywhere. Now, Georgia has their own version of it. And what he did in this game was interesting, kind of to follow something you've heard me say before, present power personnel packages and then pivot to pass principles. Remember, the three down is constructed to defend spread sets, to defend speed on the field. That's why it's a hybrid, malleable defense with hybrid defenders. The unique strength of it, as you've heard me say before, is its ability to disguise and distort pre-snap and make everything tough for the quarterback post-snap and for the run blocking schemes post-snap. So what Sark wanted to do, and I love it, he presented power personnel. His first 24 plays, they were 2-to-1 power sets over 11 personnel. When I mean power sets, I mean more backs or more tight ends on the field than wide receivers. They had 21 personnel. They had 12 personnel on the field. A lot more than any other series that I've seen for the opening script for Sark since he's been on the 40 acres. And what that does is it forces the three high to abandon their disguise and distortion because they're at such a disadvantage when it comes to the run game and to their run fits that they have to get to their alignment and assignment. They get to their alignment and assignment, and then that's when you pivot. You go present power personnel packages and pivot to play action pass principles, and that's what he did. That's why early on, the first 28 points they scored, it's mostly out of power sets, out of 12 personnel, out of 21 personnel, and they threw the ball out of these sets. They came out, started the game in 21 personnel, and they threw the ball out of these sets, went into empty, went to unbalanced out of these sets. And what this does is, like I said, it forces the three high to get to their alignment and assignment. Therefore, you already have the indicators of what coverage they're in and what front they're in. So I'm not saying he solved it, but he definitely has probably a better formula, a more effective formula versus the three high, maybe than any coach in the country, considering how often he's seen it. Like, I don't know if play calling coaches see it as much as he's seen it with his time in the Big 12. So here's basically what Texas did. Just out of you go look at the 21 personnel and what they did. And I've been talking about this for a while too. I'm glad Sark hasn't abandoned it. I thought he would abandon 21 personnel packages, especially once Rojo and Bijan were gone. But he hasn't. That 57-yard run by Keelan Robinson, that was out of two backs, one tight end. They ran the ball and threw the ball early out of those sets. And it does track now still. And I thought it would be, my hypothesis was this would not happen, but the stats say otherwise. Your most explosive, efficient, and effective personnel grouping this season, last season, and in 2021 is 21 personnel.
With two running backs on the field.
Two running backs, one time. Even this year, you're at basically 11 yards per play.
That's a first down a play.
out of 21 personnel, you're at 14 yards per attempt, and you're at damn near 10 yards per rush.
Well, think about it for the audience. I mean, you're teaching high-level football right there. But obviously, if you go two backs and a tight end, you're going to match up defensively with linebackers. I mean, you got to get heavy. You got to get heavy. You got to get heavy.
There you go.
And then if you go to the first drive for Texas, they win the toss, defer, get a 3 and out, get the ball in good field position because of a terrible punt and a penalty. Well, the first play is a screen pass where they look left, roll back to the right, and throw a screen pass. Get those linebackers moving.
Yep.
And that's C.J. Baxter for 17 yards.
21.
Then it was Keelan Robinson out of the same formation with a sweep to the left.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a play action with Quinn Ewers where he looks to the left and then rolls back to the right to the corner route with Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah.
Touchdown. So the linebackers are doing like this.
Yep, and I believe that was out of 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I got to go back and check. Yeah, but he's right.
Sark said these linebackers are really good. So I got to get them moving. I can't run right at them. I'm going to get them moving side to side, and that just continued the whole quarter. It was Mike Gundy's team was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I think they thought Texas was going to come out and try to run the rock against them, and they just came out in these run sets and threw the rock.
Oh yeah,
used play action against them, and like I said, that's brilliant, and that's part of Sark. Trust me, that is a continued trend with him when he faces these three high defenses. Hey, I'm going to show you power, and then I'm going to threaten you with power, but I'm going to pivot to play action pass principles, which is what he wants to do anyway. And another thing about facing the three highs, and I'm not saying Sark has solved it, but his formula is as effective as anybody's versus the three high. Remember I said you have to be extreme. You can't be a moderate. You got to be extreme in your formations, extreme in your personnels. That goes to your 21 and your 12, right? Present power, go extreme to that, obviously with that philosophy. But you have to be extreme in formations too. Unbalanced. If you go watch, unbalanced is one of Sark's favorite concepts versus the three high. That's when you have kind of all four of your receivers on one side of the field. And if you go look at the game versus TCU and versus Oklahoma State, those are the contests where, and even against K-State, Iowa State, there's a lot of unbalance. As a matter of fact, I counted in the Oklahoma State game, I counted 12 snaps of unbalanced against TCU. Texas was at, I think they were at, 22 snaps of unbalanced. Against Iowa State, not as many. I think you were at 8 against Iowa State, somewhere around there. My point is, when he sees a certain type of three high, that what the unbalanced forces you to do when you get extreme, well, you have to get to your alignment and assignment. That's such an extreme formation to defend. I can't afford to be in disguise, especially and when you're in defending any unbalanced set, especially when you're unbalanced to that extent, 3-by-1 sets. Man, you have to get to your alignment and assignment right away because you have stretched and stressed the defense formationally. So he does that a lot, and when he does that, over 10 yards per attempt. In the games where Texas plays a team that runs the three high, three down, they're averaging over 10 yards per attempt when they throw the ball out of unbalanced sets. So Sark has figured out what works for him against the three high. And I'll give him a ton of credit for that because that was his kryptonite. And it still may be statistically, but I don't know if it is any more schematically, philosophically, because he's kind of figured it out. You still should run it if you're going up against Sark, but it's not going to guarantee you success unless you have top-notch athletes to match up with it. And since that second half against Iowa State, he's really hit his stride.
Well, he has.
Play calling against those types of
If you go back to the summer and who was going to replace Bijan and Roshan, that's why when they took the knee, the victory formation on Saturday, and it was Jonathan Brooks out there in his full uniform with the knee injury, just to tribute Jonathan. To me, he was the key to the season. When he emerged as a power running threat and just a really good running back, Sark always says, if I can run it and I can run when you want to stop me, I can beat you because everything you just said, I can present power and then pass and use these weapons on the outside. They had to have that established, and Jonathan Brooks brought that with the injury to C.J. Baxter early, and that was awesome to see him out there. Yeah. Jonathan Brooks getting to be on the field.
It's just so interesting because, you're right. Jonathan Brooks went down. We all assumed there was going to be regression, and then C.J. Baxter gets a 100-yard game versus Iowa State, and then Jaden Blue gets a 100-yard game versus Texas Tech, and it was almost like he played the okie doke. Versus Oklahoma State, they figured, man, they had Texas Tech. How many guys had great rushes, right? We talked about that. Everybody was averaging over 5 yards per carry. It was the best rushing performance of the season, and he almost used that psychologically against Oklahoma State, presenting them with, oh man, they're definitely gonna run this rock. Look how good they've been running the rock lately, and they didn't.
Nope.
It was
450 yards later for Quinn Ewers
Yeah.
and 9 or 10 different receivers catching passes, including Tavondre Sweat, the
Right.
likely Outland Trophy winner.
We got to talk about that too. We'll get into that when we go behind the burn orange curtain, maybe a little bit later, or maybe Raj rant. But remember, we talked about what's holding this Texas team back from being the best team in the country.
Red zone.
Red zone offense. Even against Texas Tech, where the entire team played well and they had a dominant performance, red zone offense was still inept. In this game versus Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy said they looked better in person than they did on film. You know what I think he was talking about?
Red zone.
Red zone.
5 for 5.
Red zone. I think he was like, hold up, this is not the team I seen in the red zone.
Well, that's why somebody texted, can they beat? Look, they can beat any team in this Final Four. Will they beat either team? I don't know.
They
But
can.
they got a month to prepare, and they've got the personnel to get healthy. And Washington's got a month too.